Go.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Facebook Live. We are trying to get live on Instagram as well.
And we're live right now. Hello,
Perfect.
Instagram world. We are live right now. Hello. Welcome to episode number 37 of Window Treatment Friday Live. And in just a second, I'm going to be joined by my friend and colleague, Kimberly from WindowWorks. I'm just approving her request right here. And we are really excited about today's very special episode, actually. There you are, my friend.
Hello.
Hey, let me just adjust the volume so there's no, yeah. All right, I think we're rolling.
We are live on both Instagram and Facebook. And today we are not going to be discussing window treatments. We are actually going to be doing a little recap of our experience at LuAnn Live. So
we are. Let me just get my images up and rolling here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock for the last, I don't know, 2 months or so, and especially for the last 4 days, you know that LuAnn Live took place February 2nd through 4th. Yesterday was the last day, and both Kimberly and I, well, I don't know about you, my head feels about this big. I feel like I just went into like a twilight zone for, I don't know, 10 years and just came out of it. So it's just the transformative experience of really any conference, if you've been to one, but especially LuAnn's, is quite incredible. And so Kim and I are here today to share some of what we had learned and pay it forward to you guys. If you've been there, you will appreciate a lot of the things that we'll be saying. If you haven't, we hope that you learn a little something of the tidbits that we'll share with you. So first, actually, I would love to give you a behind-the-scenes look. So this is, you know what? On Instagram, you can't see me. I just realized, like, you still can't see me. You see this part of me. This is great. This is great. I love Instagram.
There you go.
Right.
Now
Can you guys see me like this?
Hey, Mimi.
Hi, Mimi. Mimi was there, right?
It was so good to see you on day 2 in the chat and in the Zoom portal.
So here is a shot of the behind the scenes. Now, of course, you know that because of everything that's happening in the world, we couldn't see each other face to face. It was a virtual conference, but it wasn't just any other Zoom call. It was truly a very special production. Both Kim and I were actually there on site in the hotel in this very room. And so via this shot, we're giving you a little behind the scenes look of what it looked like, and we'll tell you a little bit of what it felt like. So there were 3 different stations. There was a stage where LuAnn took the panelists and took questions. There was a Zoom room stage. You see which is the center of the photo, which is where there were 4 different screens of everybody in the Zoom room. And that's where LuAnn really came alive, I feel like. And then there was also a green screen. And the green screen is where LuAnn kind of gave her State of the Union addresses, an intro and outro, right? And then that was a lot of fun. And then you'll see at the bottom right-hand corner of the shot, this is like Command Central. This is where the producers were, the director was, the assistants, the associates, the I don't know, 10 different computers and screens and keyboards, and the way they're just
soundboards, everything.
It was pretty incredible.
It was, I will say, from being at the first LuAnn Live and getting to be with everyone who attended and seeing, everyone in the audience and everything else and having that whole interaction and really seeing LuAnn come alive on stage was great. And then walking in to LuAnn Live this year, and the room was super quiet. You could hear a pin drop. So when you're sitting there and LuAnn is interviewing the panelists, she has her headphones in and she's listening to the panelists come through on the headphones, and it's just pure quiet. And then all of a sudden you hear LuAnn starting to talk. you're like, wait, but who is she talking to?
So even though we were in the room, we actually had to wear the
With
headphones.
headphones,
So
yep.
does everybody else. So you couldn't talk. You couldn't open up a bag of chips. God forbid you make that noise.
No sneezing. I mean, we had masks on, but like still, like I just felt like don't breathe, don't blink, don't do anything because we didn't want to disrupt this sound on your end. But it was a little like surreal to be like, it is so quiet, but there's so much happening in the chat and just hearing the panelists and then hearing LuAnn. So it was a little bit of a surreal kind of it was, the pandemic has brought on a lot of unique and different moments. And I want to say, this is probably one of them.
However, I have to say, to Mimi's point on Instagram, she's so fun to
Yeah,
see you both. It was a next level
it
Zooming event.
absolutely was.
Because Mimi, it wasn't just Zoom. So what you guys saw were we were all attendees were in Zoom, but the panelists and LuAnn was in a whole different software.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pretend to know what the name of
Nope.
it is, but essentially it's like a TV, like live TV level production
Production.
type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. So that's how they were able to maneuver and switch back and forth between Zoom and this other software and have all these different people and screens and module. It was,
Yeah, there was it
just next level stuff.
and I don't think everyone, it's hard to tell in the picture because it is a panorama picture, but there were like actual like newsroom cameras, like level
Yeah.
type cameras that were filming LuAnn when she was on the stage interviewing the panelists. And then there was another camera that was pointed in the direction of the Zoom screen. So when she was doing when we were doing the aha moments and the morning comments and things like that, and she was speaking to us directly via Zoom, that was a whole nother camera that was pointed at her. So it felt like being in a newsroom, essentially.
So without further ado,
Yes.
let's talk about some of our takeaways. And Kim will take 3 and I will take 3, and then we will wrap it up with something a little special.
Yes. Okay. So for me, one of the panel discussions that I was really interested in watching was Desi and Katie, and when they were discussing work-life balance, because I feel like that is a major goal um, for
For
myself.
you personally.
For me personally, myself in 2021 is trying to find the balance between, having a little bit of a personal life in conjunction with working. And
I did ask you if you remember. I'm like, Kim, how many hours a week do you
I
work? You did
know
give me an answer. Yeah, I'm not going to divulge it. It will be your
it's a
secret.
lot. It's a lot, and
Kim works a lot of hours.
it depends on the week, but it's a lot of hours. So and Desi has a tool, a calendar that like immediately in the middle of the panel discussion, I was going on the link. I printed it out right then and there.
Good for you.
I have a copy of it right here.
Let's
So
see it.
it's like it's a daily planner that you have, and then from the daily planner, you have another page that you have like your 3 priorities, and then it kind of like breaks everything down, which is really cool. And this is something that I think I'm going to start implementing in WindowWorks so that this way, because now WindowWorks we're also growing as a staff, so that's where it's trying to find the balance of my previous roles at WindowWorks compared to now my leadership roles that I have now. So I'm so used to being in one specific kind of zone and now being like, oh, wait, I do have like an assistant and there are other people around here to help me. So trying to figure out that balance and new systems for that. So this calendar is going to help with that. So it was just a really cool and unique resource that I was able to download. I'll attach the link because the link was floating around in the chat, and that's where I got it from.
And here I have, Kim, I have a picture of Desi here.
Yes.
So this is what Desi looks like. She's a certified life coach. And here's her handle for Instagram if anybody wants to look her up. And essentially, DesiCreswell.com, I believe, is her website. And she has a lot of those tools on her website. And of course, you can contact her directly. But I definitely think she is someone to really pay attention to and check out, because life work balance for all of us, any of us, is a constant journey.
Yeah.
For me too.
And she is actually, and if you don't have this book yet, do yourself a favor, pick it up, go on Amazon, get it.
Tell us what it's called.
It is a well-designed business, the Power Talk Friday Experts Volume 2. So this is basically what the conference was centered around. We had all the authors on the back, the 9 authors. They each had designer panelists that LuAnn matched up with, and they each discussed their topic of expertise. So Desi's topic of expertise is she is a life coach and the whole work-life balance. So her chapter, I believe, is chapter 8 in the book. And if you go through there, there's also a lot of great information, a lot of meat and potatoes that if you did not attend the conference and have FOMO, you can go into the book and you could really get some tidbits from the things that she discussed.
Yeah. All right. Next, what I want to talk about is the better budget conversations, actually. So this was part of the very first panel that Sandra Funk did with Beth Diana Smith, I believe, right?
Yes.
So, of course, you know Sandra Funk from the House of Funk, and her handle is at House of Funk Design on Instagram, right? So you definitely need to look her up. But Sandra has been on LuAnn's podcast many times. And of course, she's also very well known for her beautiful designs and a luxury high-end firm in North Jersey, which Window Works services for window treatments. And also Sandra is known for this new product that she put out last year called The Standard. The Standard is essentially Sandra's templates and methods and ways of running an interior design firm. So it is everything you need from A to Z on how to start a project, how to have conversations, how to have the scope going, how to do those budgeting conversations, how to run the processes on the back end behind the scenes. So literally it's the A to Z. I know several designers who have used her standard, and also she has when she opened up the registration for it last year, I know a ton of designers who took advantage of it and now are that much more better off and profitable because of it. Now, the reason what I took away from it, from this better budget conversations, is this little tidbit that I want to share with you guys. So we oftentimes, whether it is in interior design or window treatments, have these conversations about, well, if you do X, Y, Z, then it's about this much money. Or if you do this sofa, it's $5,000. If you do this sofa, it's $10,000. Or in windows, we say if you do one width of material for a pair of panels on a single window on decorative hardware with fabric, let's say it's about $1,500 to $2,000, whatever. I'm just pulling out numbers. And so well, I don't think I'm that far off.
No, you're not. That's why I'm laughing.
These things. So, what I took away from this is that we no longer have to just use words to explain things to people. We actually can put a little, well, maybe not so little, actually very pretty visual cheat sheet where we can show our prospects what things may cost. So if you're an interior designer listening, you can actually showcase a project of yours that, let's say, it was $25,000 for a living room. And then you can have another package of a living room and say that it was 100,000, and then there was another package that may be super luxury and it's whatever 1,000. So instead of just talking about the elements and what differentiates its sofa and case good and whatnot, you can actually show your prospect visually how many pieces and what it takes and what the square footage and the size and just the scope of work from $20,000 living room to $100,000 living room. And so that kind of visual representation makes a huge difference in a prospect's mind to quickly identify what it is they want to spend, how much it is they can afford, and what it is they should be expecting for their money. And so I've actually heard this to be said on LuAnn's podcast in terms of interior design, but duh, me, I've never applied it to window treatments for some reason. I don't know why, you know. So in addition to aha moments, I also had some duh moments during this conference. So I think it's even super simpler in window treatment world. We can show a single window, single pair, a single width of material, decorative hardware, and say, this look will cost you $1,500. And you can have then a width and a half, and then you can have two widths, and you can have trim, and you can have maybe different type of hardware or different size windows. And you can say, this package costs you this much. And a double window, 1.5 widths with trim costs you $2,500, and this next package costs you $3,500 to $4,000, or at least you can say it starts at blah 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 number. And so again, the point here is, instead of just using your words in explaining and hoping that the other person understands what you're saying. And of course, as soon as you start throwing out terms like 1 width of material, 1.5 width of material, like besides Kim and I, everybody, you know, goes glassy eyed. Has no idea. So, but we can actually show them, you know, if you want to have a panel that is about this wide or this thick or this full, this is your investment. If you want it full or wider, bigger, more, then it's going to be this type of budget. So it was really during that panel of Sandra's that it really hit me home how, number one, how important those visuals were, and number two, that I can apply this to the window treatment world. So, and I was also very fortunate and privileged to have Sandra on day 3. This is
nice.
for the VIP attendees who got that VIP special treatment, where we were in private Zoom rooms with each expert. It was just me and another designer and Sandra, and then it was kind of like musical chairs where we got a different expert every half hour or so. So I got to spend about half an hour with Sandra, asked her all sorts of questions. As a trade, as a window treatment person, I asked of my type of prospect. So if I were to want to work with a, you know, Sandra Funks of the world, kind of like what are some of the things that work for her, what she recommends. And it was an amazing experience. I took lots of notes from her alone. And this little tidbit that I just shared is something that you guys can take to the bank immediately.
Yes.
So please follow Sandra Funk at House of Funk Design. That's her handle on Instagram. Lots of beautiful eye candy and super #smart lady as well.
Yes. Okay. So my next tidbit where I just had like a total like mind blown moment was for the last panel discussion with Amber De La Garza and Jenny Slingerland. They talked about the high value buckets. And again, this is going to be your little Bible if you did not go to the conference. And even if you did, because there was a lot being thrown at you at once. And that's the thing where when it's in a conference like this, going back to the point, and I just want to back it up a second, going back to the point that I made last week in the intro, and this came up a lot during the conference, was Natasha. She had a whole breakdown of how she works with when she goes to a conference, and how she breaks it down like do now, do later, buy or download, mindset, and follow up. So there was a lot that we were all kind of taking in during those 2 days if you didn't do the VIP during those 2 days. So for me, after Amber's panelist, that night I read Amber's chapter in LuAnn's book. Because
good for you.
Yeah, I was like, I need to just like,
I'm not waiting a second longer. It's happening right now.
And that's the beauty part about the book, is that you can kind of skip around with the chapters.
Right.
So, oh, hey, Kim, I enjoyed your panel too, Kim.
Oh, hey, Kim. Oh, you were wonderful. I love the boxing gloves in the background. That's awesome.
And you have a fabulous name. So what my mind was completely blown with Amber was figuring out what bucket that I've kind of been living in. And the buckets that, just to kind of go over them, there's marketing and visibility, sales, servicing clients, and leadership. So, and then the other bucket is basically like all the like smaller tasks that you have to do, things that, you know, the minimal tasks. And for me, for those of you who don't know, I for, I guess I want to say for 7 years, worked as LuAnn's assistant. Like, did a lot of the background work. We worked tandem together on a lot of big projects, depending on the size of the project. If she would measure it, I would do a lot of the back end work. So I was always used to that role. Now I'm transitioned and moved more into like running the window treatment side. I'm the frontline person. And now this past December, I have, hopefully an assistant. Jess is doing great. She's been here for about a month and a half. So I still have to, switch that mindset of like, that's not a Kim task. I
Yeah.
don't have to do that.
Yeah.
This is why Jess is here. And this is something that when you're in a role I worked for WindowWorks for a year and a half. So I did that like primarily. And then when I came back 10 years ago and did that for 7 years, your
Yeah.
mindset is of that, like, I'm the safety net.
Yeah.
I was LuAnn's safety net for so many years, and realizing that like now I have a safety net. So it's figuring out and creating new systems. And I saw LuAnn yesterday at the end of the conference, and I said to her, I don't know if you're going to be really happy that I was an attendee at LuAnn Live, or more like, because I said, me and you have to set up a little one-on-one date where we're just going to like go over all the things that, all the systems and things. Because as we grow and we're getting more, more people in the office, a lot of different personalities and whatnot, you kind of have to shift and create bigger systems, because the systems that we have at WindowWorks right now are for a certain number of people. And now that we're larger, you have to pivot and you have to shift. So I think that was a big one of my aha moments, that I've been living in the others bucket. And it's the whole like letting go and being like, this is what they're here for. They're here to be your safety net and your support. So, and above all, I mean, Amber is great. She has, that's where I learned a year ago when about ClickUp. I was using that a lot with Adriana, who used to work at WindowWorks, who worked with that. That was a really great tool. So I'm going to bring that back now with Jess. So it's just all about the 2 days and really taking a break from WindowWorks and not being in the office, and really just being able to listen to the panelists and the designers that they had, and just being able to be like, oh, okay, these are the changes that we need to make. Because when you're in it, I feel like sometimes when you're in it 24/7, you can't see, like, you can't see the light, and you're just like your tunnel vision. So that's where I am super grateful that I was able to kind of attend and be really present in the conference. And, those are.
So I have to definitely say lots of things about Amber, but we don't have enough time. So I know Amber personally. I know her really well because she is my personal business coach and a friend, I want to say. I hope she agrees. I've been coaching with her for the last year or so, and those 4 buckets is something that we also went over one-on-one. And for me, Kim, you may not know this. I don't think we've ever had this discussion necessarily, but I also had to really have some definite mind shifts about what my role is and where my high value buckets were. Because until about a year ago, where I was the window treatment specialist, just like you were, or just like you are right now, I was the client facing person. I went on appointments, I took measures, I did the estimates, I answered all the questions, I was the product knowledge person, all of that. And that was my high value bucket activity. Well, now that I have Beata here on staff, it is no longer my high value bucket activity. It is hers. Right. And actually, it's something that I remind her all the time. I'm like, no, you need to do this. You need to service our clients. You need to be the product knowledge person. You need to go on appointments. You need to make sure that we have orders and our designers are satisfied and they're serviced. And with Amber, I actually worked a lot on, well, what's my role now? Like, what am I supposed to do? And so, and that's really when I came to a very clear realization that my role is in that leadership bucket. It is to create the systems. It is to provide the frameworks. It is to create the safe space to have conversations, sometimes really hard conversations. It is to give feedback. It is to give guidance and leadership. So that's where I'm finding myself more and more as my business grows and I elevate my people. I also elevate my own role as well. So that was all because of Amber and the way she taught me how to do it. So I highly encourage you guys to follow Amber De La Garza at Amber_De La Garza on Instagram, That's where you'll find all of her wonderful goodies.
Yes, and if in the book, once you read Amber's chapter, there is she has like an extra chapter,
Oh,
and
cool! I didn't know.
there's a link within that. So I already downloaded mine. I haven't read it yet. And through that, you also get this opportunity to master your emails, a course.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's funny. The universe, our emails crashed 2 times this week at WindowWorks. Not once, but twice.
Yeah, I think the universe is trying to tell you something.
So the universe is like screaming at me. So I told LuAnn yesterday, I was like, I'm signed up for that course and I'm going to figure out emails because emails are insanity.
Yeah.
So, and it's just,
for you.
So that is one of my bucket lists for the next month is to kind of zero in and get that organized. But I just thought it was so funny when you clicked and you download the chapter that was an option to like how to organize emails. I said, okay, universe, I get it. I get it. I get it. Get it. Thank you.
Hey, Heather Rebold.
Hey,
Hill joined us on Instagram. Hey.
She's a
Scout rep. Yep. All right. So my next takeaway from this amazing conference is this whole segment on teamwork. It was presented by Eileen Hahn, who, of course, we all know and love. She was one of the experts in the first book. Also, LuAnn interviewed her, I want to say like bazillion times. I have personally hired her to be my own HR consultant and coach as I've been hiring for the last year or so. And I cannot say enough about her. First of all, her style. It is, you just like everything she says, you just want to be like, wow. Like you just like totally like, you like drink her Kool-Aid. You're like, yes, bring it on.
She just makes it sound so easy sometimes when you're like,
so easy. Like, but of course it's that easy and simple and effortless and there's never any issue. But she just has a way of wrapping it up. It's like a warm blanket, you know, you just like envelop yourself in it. You're just like, okay, Eileen, can I have some more of you in my life? So she just has that wonderful warm style. But behind that wonderful warm style and the beautiful blue eyes, of course, is someone who is extremely smart, fast, sharp. I mean, she is the consultant to Fortune 500 companies on all HR things. So it's not like she is, you know, doing this from her garage, you know, just started. I mean, she has a ton of experience. Okay, so the one takeaway that I want to share with you is, as you hire people and as you interview them, make sure that the questions that you ask them are situational questions or situation-based questions. So instead of, for example, I'll give you a specific example. Instead of saying, what is your strength or what is your weakness? You can certainly ask that question and maybe somebody may say, well, I'm really good at conflict resolution. Well, instead of just leaving it there, you want to say, give me an example where you had a conflict and when you had to resolve it. Or you can take it even a little bit further and you can say, give me an example where you had a conflict, you thought you solved it, but then it came back to bite you in the butt. Or you can take it a little bit further and you can say, give me an example. Oh, Mimi's saying, you have to read this for me as I'm talking. Sure. Okay, so give me an example of where you had to use your conflict resolution skills. You thought you resolved it, and but it really didn't work out the way you wanted to anyway, and you had to then come back and use a different strategy to resolve it. So all of these types of questions, they dig deeper into somebody's said strength of conflict resolution. So that's what situation-based interviewing is. And then another thing that I want to parlay to you guys of what Eileen is a really big believer and proponent, and that is exceptional people. So for me personally, I can share with you, I love the people that I work with. I think all of my team members are truly exceptional, starting with Beata, my window treatment specialist, to my seamster Boris, to our installer Tom, to my wonderful marketing coordinator Stephanie, to my bookkeeper Lena. I think they're all exceptional, and I can truly, I mean, I just walked away for 4 days to this conference and you know, not to say that there were any problems and things just, you know, like hummed and drummed along. That wouldn't be a business if that were to ever happen, but I could do that. I allowed myself to do it knowing that things would be taken care of. The one position where I've really been struggling with is the general manager, or for some people it could be like an office manager or a project manager, an office admin. So I kind of lump it all together as a general manager. And Eileen has been really helpful to me as I go through what has proven to be a pretty tumultuous journey to find someone. She has really been my rock. She's been someone who has held my hand and really helps me with her guidance and with her resources. Okay, so it is her resources that I want to highlight now for you. Let me bring up her picture. This is our beautiful Eileen Hahn. You can follow her at Eileen_Hahn on Instagram. And of course, you can find her on her website. When you go on her website, there's a ton of stuff. But for designers listening, and window treatment pros as well, like Kim and I are, she has specific hiring toolkits. So if you're looking for an office administrator, if you're looking for a junior assistant, for example, and for an expediter, that's more specific for interior designers. If you're looking for either one of these three positions, and she has some others, she has specific toolkit as like a step-by-step, a paint by number, essentially, of what you need to do to find that person, from the job posting to the job description to the questions to ask. And then one other thing that she really is a big proponent of is assessments. So it's not just those situational interview questions, it's also assessments, which I cannot say enough about, because somebody can say that they're a wonderful conflict resolution person until they're blue in the face, but it is the special assessment that she provides that can really tell you very quickly if that person is it's not like they're not truthful. I'm not saying that. I mean, they may believe that they are, but the assessment really supports that statement or disputes that statement. So that, to me, this past year has been invaluable personally. So I'm speaking from personal experience here.
Do you have like new hires before you even hire them, before they could even like go through the interview process, do the PI index?
Oh yes, that's the assessment that I'm talking about.
So exactly. That's something that we did last year. We did a whole 1-day intensive group conference as a team for WindowWorks. And before we did it, we did the PI index. So Eileen could really sit down with LuAnn, Vin, and Bill and assess like what are everyone's strengths and weaknesses. And once we really got to kind of dissect that, then we would say, oh, this is, this person is very into like super detail oriented, and this is why sometimes they might butt heads with someone who isn't so super detail oriented. And really finding out, it was so super helpful as a group, and to find out like if you're a high D, if a low A, and whatnot. And these are all things kind of in the PI index. And now it's a requirement before you even get to speak to LuAnn, depending on what position you're applying for at WindowWorks, because we want someone who's like, you call it a showroom, the general manager, we call it a showroom coordinator. So we need someone who's a high D, which means that they're very high in details. And so if you have a low D, it's like, you're not for us. Like, that's great. That's fine that if you're a low D, but that's not the personality fit for this position. So that's where it's been super helpful, because when we were looking for a new showroom coordinator, I think we got like over 200 applicants. And from that,
oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And from that, we were able to narrow it down to like 50 or 40 that apply, that could fit what we needed. And then those would then take the PI index. And then from there, it would like, then we kind of have like a chart of like, this is where they kind of need to be on the PI index. And then from there, it's like, okay, so of the 40, maybe only 9 fit what we're looking for.
And it just makes the process so much quicker and more efficient. You don't have to waste your time talking to people that clearly are not a fit for the position.
Do not fit whatever the template is for that position. And that's where Eileen is really great, is really picking that apart and helping you come up with that template. Plus, I mean, I adore her. So
you cannot to. I mean, it's just
she is the way she is because of her mom, who you have often heard LuAnn speak about on the podcast.
And Honey,
and Honey is great.
Well, I think we met her met her on Zoom call. She was at the very beginning of the LuAnn Live.
Yeah, and Honey, and then LuAnn's mom, Gina, who I call Pebs because I have yeah, it's my own personal little love name for Gina. But yeah, they're a great bunch.
All right, moving on.
Okay, and my next takeaway was the networking. I kind of I kind of alluded to this last week when I was talking about reasons why you should attend the conference. And I knew that there was going to be a chat, but that chat was like on fire. And I mean that in the best way possible because it was so great being able to see everyone and being able to communicate in that way. And then just being able to see everyone, like when LuAnn would do the breakout sessions and the Zoom and everyone being able to see their aha moment. I mean, Vita and I actually got to physically like be in the same space. And it was the first time in like literally 1 year.
Literally, yeah.
We were the last time I put physical eyeballs on Vita was February 7th of 2020. And I wanted to give it the biggest hug, but it's like you can't even do that now. But it was great. And like, you know, when we were seeing like Mimi, if you're still here and you're watching on Instagram, just like seeing Mimi's face pop up on the Zoom screen, I was like, oh, Mimi.
Amazing. And seeing Renee is right now with us on live. The chat was crazy good. You're so right.
I mean, and like, give props to Dane. Dane was like the chat superstar.
Dane Austin from A Colorful Life. Yeah, he was the superstar of chat.
I kept taking screenshots of things. Hey, yes. See, like it was like great to like see all of our colleagues and like Claire Jetford and Wendy Wallachuk, people that like you would normally see during High Point, or we have the lunch and learns at our showroom, and I miss that. I miss being able to like host these events at Window Works and just being able to connect with everyone on that level just made it that more enjoyable and more of a reason why like I'm so glad I was able to be a part of it.
And now we're all shared our handles, Instagram handles in the chat. So now we're like following each other. So, you know, you have more friends to check out their work or bounce ideas off of, because truly these 2 days or 2.5 days, if you were part of VIP, it bonded us. It connected us on a deeper level, a much higher level. And, Mimi says she loved your lunch and learns.
I know.
So to be able to be connected with those people and knowing that that's the past history or past joint experience that you have together, it makes it so special.
And not only that, it's, you know, I know with the first LuAnn Live, I keep going back to the first one, but there were designers who traveled from all over the country. There were, you know, designers that I got to meet firsthand, people that I, you know, you feel like because of social media, you know people, and then you're like, oh wait, it's you in real life. But in a situation like this, you were able to connect because it was virtual and you didn't have, yeah, we miss all the hugs too.
I'm hugging you, Mimi. I'm hugging you virtually.
When we're allowed to hug, I feel like everyone's just it's gonna be like one massive group hug.
One big, yeah, love fest.
But now that because it was virtual and there wasn't the pressure of trying to travel, that took that whole element out of it. You were able to connect with people that you necessarily wouldn't have the opportunity if LuAnn Live was in person. You know what I mean? That someone may have been like, oh, that's great, but I don't think traveling to New Jersey is in the cards right now for me. But because it was virtual, we had the opportunity to all come together and really, and what I loved was like in the chat, if someone was saying like, what is that? And they would say, here's my resource, or this is where I go to this.
People were incredibly generous with how they did things, their methods, what they thought, their vulnerabilities too. People were very generous during the aha moments or the duh moments for me. Very generous.
I remember one question that you brought up in the chat, Vita, and because I was watching it on the Zoom app on my iPad, that's where Zoom kind of has a downfall. I wasn't able to have the chat on one side and the panel discussion on the other. So when I would see comments roll by, I would click them at the top and then try to quickly type. But typing on an iPad with one finger is kind of a pain. Yeah, but you had said, like, what do you do in an open office when people and I was like, yes, please, someone like tell us, what do you do?
Because you guys have an open office concept as well, and you have to concentrate, and there's a bazillion things happening all around you and interruptions.
Right. And you literally, like, I literally will say, like, everyone, I'm working on a revision on this quote. I'm not here. Kim has left the building and we'll be working. And then something will go up and go, Kim, I know you're working on that, but real quick, how do I do this? And it's like, so hearing where some people have a card, I think one woman said, I don't remember her name, she had a card on her desk that, like, if the red card was up, like they were saying, like, oh, it was like, oh,
It's
like
like
a
a Brazilian
Brazilian
restaurant,
steakhouse.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just seeing that, and just where you would propose like a small question like that, and hearing like what other designer, it's like, oh, I'm not the only one. Great. It's good to know that I'm not the only one who's going through this.
Even that validation sometimes
Yes.
is helpful.
So to me, that was such a big takeaway
Yeah.
of the of LuAnn Live, was just being able to connect, share our sob stories, share like our wins, our losses, and knowing that you're not alone in all these things. So that was great. I was like, wow, Vita goes through the same thing that I do. I didn't even know that. And I talk to her every
We
week.
talk every week.
I had to go to LuAnn Live to figure out that you have the same issue that I have.
I know, that's pretty funny. Well, and another one in that same sort of venue, I got in my VIP experience, one of the Zoom meetings was with Amber, because it was all
Yeah.
random. I
Yeah.
couldn't
Yeah.
exactly pick and choose,
Yeah.
so it was random. And she comes over like, oh, Amber, hello. Of course, I talk to her every 2 weeks as part of my coaching package, and lo and behold, after a whole year of coaching together, I asked her a question, and she's like, you don't do this, Vita? How did this never come up? So, we started figuring that situation out. But yeah, what happens is you extrapolate yourself out of your everyday environment, you immerse yourself into something so content rich and amazing as a conference, especially LuAnn's conference, and things that have never popped up before are all of a sudden popping up now.
Yeah. Like Dane gave a breakdown during Desi and Katie's panel about like how he color codes his calendar.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit.
And I
That's
just
fun.
thought like the way he has the different colors and things. And I haven't like really, because it was happening in the chat and the chat was happening so fast. So I screenshotted it and I said, this is on my to do later list, like
Yep.
Natasha has. So I have to really like dissect that and see like how he's breaking down his calendar, because structuring my time and time blocking and things is something that I'm going to change and implement in terms of systems at WindowWorks. But I was like, okay, if he's doing this, and just hearing from what he did during his panel discussion with Amanda, and hearing like how the different networking that he did and things like that, I'm like, Dane knows his stuff. If this is what he's doing, I need to kind of pay attention and see what's going on with that.
Yeah. All right. And my last takeaway is courage. And Kim, you didn't hear me say any of it.
I didn't.
Yep. No, it's fine. It's fine. So this will be new for you, actually.
Yes, I'm excited. Because Vinny was like, "Did you hear Vito?" I said, "No, I didn't." I was like, "Why?" I was like, So he was so, just to kind of give you props. And Vinny does not say this about, he was like, she was so eloquent in what she said, and such an eloquent speaker. He was so impressed by you. That was the first thing. I hadn't seen Vinny in 3 days, or 4 days, because of the snowstorm. So when I came back yesterday, that was one of the first things he said to me, that how impressed he was, and that like you just kind of like, it was such a nice wrap up.
I'm going to give a very short Cliff's Notes version of that, because here's the thing. I don't remember what I said exactly. It was one of those moments, which again, this is a testament to me making the decision of leaving my everyday routines and hustle and bustle of dinners and laundry, and minute by minute interruptions in the office. By the virtue of the fact that I took myself out of that and placed myself in essentially like this bubble environment, which happened to be in the same hotel as where LuAnn had her life. So that's where I could see LuAnn, I could see Kim, but I also stayed in my room too, and just really paid attention, and I focused, and I had that tunnel vision. And this was a very sort of, in a way, electric experience, like an out-of-body experience, and that's why I don't remember a lot of what I said. But I do remember how I started, because I remember thinking about it before I kind of raised my hand to say the aha, and that aha was the word courage. And that word courage represents, for me, represents the theme of the whole conference for me, and what I'm hearing from a lot of people is as well. We heard so many examples from panelists of really difficult decisions that they had to make and how they've made them, what went into making those decisions. And even though we can sometimes get wrapped up, or it's easy to get wrapped up in the mechanics of that decision, what we cannot forget is how difficult it is to make that decision to begin with. And in order to make any decision, it takes true courage to do so. We heard from Christine Lin that she had to fire 10 people. I mean, you don't just fire 10 people because you got up on the wrong side of the bed. I mean, that's a really, really big decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then she rehired 14 people, all of that in the span of 1 year. And that year was 2020. And let me remind you, that year was the year of COVID. That took a lot of courage to do that. We heard from someone else about how she blew up her Instagram. She had thousands and thousands of followers, and she decided over a course of time that is no longer the aesthetic that served her, and therefore these weren't the customers or the followers that served where she wanted to go. So one day she just blew it up, essentially. She just stopped it and started anew. Can you imagine how much courage that took? And to me, courage, it doesn't mean that you don't have fear doing it. It's quite the opposite. It is when you have all the fear in the world, but instead of having that fear paralyze you, you use it to propel you forward. You're channeling your inner tigress. If you guys can see, I'm channeling my LuAnn, I'm channeling my Blanche Garcia. I'm channeling my inner tigress today, because I want to have that courage until the next LuAnn Live, where all of our resources will have depleted and we need a new charge again. So it is that having the tenacity, having the courage, having the fear, but moving through it anyway, that I believe connects all of us as entrepreneurs. Oh, and I remember what else I said. I said that our superpowers, LuAnn talks about each individual superpowers all the time. And that is something that is unique about each and every one of us. But I think it is courage is something that unites all of us. And it is something that all of us as entrepreneurs, Kim, as leaders, that you are entering into that role of a leader right now, all of us as leaders and CEOs of our businesses, no matter how big or small, courage is what unites us, what connects us. It's that thread that interweaves all of us together. And I also, I think, mentioned how thankful I was that LuAnn had the courage to put this conference together.
Mm-hmm.
How fearful I'm sure that she was about how it may not work out, how maybe we're all tired of another Zoom event, how, God forbid it snowed, although who could have predicted that? But I'm sure there were a million fears in her mind as well. Yet she had the courage to put this amazing event together and give us the opportunity to experience the electricity that was present in every panel, in every speaker, in every aha moment, and every networking opportunity that we had. So I personally have walked away from these past 4 days a lot more courageous than I entered those 4 days.
Yeah. No, it was, I still remember when all this was happening. And for those of you who know, like the way the setup is at Window Works, we all kind of have like conjoining desks. And look, I designed it 6 feet apart pre-COVID, which is great. That was not my intention, but LuAnn and I, our desk is shaped like a T. And the center T is where we can both turn around and sit and just have conversations when we need to collaborate on things. And I remember looking at her when we were finally back in the office. It was over the summer, and I said, what's up with LuAnn Live? Like, what are we doing? Like, how is it? What's going to happen? And she's like, well, I'm going to have to figure out how to do this She's like, I can't do it in person. So, because the intention was to have it originally in November live, like in person. And when that wasn't looking like that wasn't happening, then it was trying to create a way to do it virtually and not just like any other virtual conference, and really bringing value to all the designers. And that's something that, she doesn't take lightly. She knows that asking everyone to take 2 days out of their schedule, 3 days out of their schedule, it's a lot. And that's why her team worked really hard, all the behind the scenes, the just everything down to making sure, how was it going to work with all the little talking heads, and were people really going to be able to express their aha moments? Because from the first conference, that was really what was really powerful that first night, where LuAnn did her speech to close out the first day. And I remember running around the conference room with a microphone and handing it off to different people so they can talk about their aha moments. And Corey, Dame Jenkins, had his aha moment, and the words that he said, he called LuAnn the Oprah of the interior design world. And so I said, how are you going to bring that element there? Because that whole human interaction where everyone is just sharing, like, this is what I figured out and this is what I want to express. And so seeing how it all worked out was just, to me, I thought, I know I sound a little biased because I've known her for like half of my life, but it just, I think it worked out great. And it was one of the best virtual conferences that I've attended in the last year. Like, it completely blew everything out of the water.
By far, absolutely. And so the one thing, we have a couple of, Kim and I are finished with our ahas, but there's two more pieces of information that we would love to leave you with. One very practical, and the other one a little bit more inspirational. So please stay to the very end.
Yes.
The very first one is, we would love to share with you more information about LuAnn University.
Mm-hmm.
So LuAnn University is a compilation of courses and instructors that LuAnn has put together in her infamous fashion, the way only she knows how to do, so that the entire design community has the resources that they need to elevate their business. Just like LuAnn Live is kind of like a launching pad to do that, but it's only 2.5 days or 2 days for most people. It gives you a ton of information and a ton of to-dos and a ton of notes, and certainly a lot of inspiration as well. But then you can only take it so far if you're doing it alone. Mm-hmm. What happens, LuAnn University kind of takes over. It leverages that inspiration and it leverages that excitement that you're experiencing right now. And then it gives you, kind of takes hold of your hand in the way, and holds your hand and walks you through the information and the to-do steps of the area that you need, where you need help the most. So whether it is accounting and bookkeeping, whether mm-hmm. it is knowing how to purchase at wholesale pricing, whether it is knowing how to set up your processes and systems in your design world, she has quite a few modules that she has put together within several departments that she already has, just like a true university would. And she has a whole myriad of instructors, myself included, and I'm so privileged to be in with all of those people, and with LuAnn as well, where we take you by your hand. If this is the department or the area where you need help, we'll take your hand and we'll walk you through step by step on how on learning the information, improving on what you've already learned, and then implementing it. Each course is a 6-week module. So there's 5 modules of very curated content and information that you need to learn, and the last module of a lot of Q&A and conversation mm-hmm. and a lot of back and forth. I was actually privileged and humbled enough to teach one of the classes for her previously last year, around this time actually, in the window treatment for profit department. And I'm going to do that again starting in April for all the window treatment pros who are ready to scale their business to their first $1 million. So please check out LuAnn University for more departments, more instructors, more information that you can take to the bank, where you can take everything that you've learned and got inspired by at LuAnn Live, and now can really implement it and put it into action over the 6-week period.
Yeah. And the direct website for that is luannigara.com/LNU.
LNU, LuAnn
Yep.
University, of course.
Yes, LuAnn Nigara
Awesome.
University. Yep.
LuAnn, right.
Yeah. All righty.
All right. Now, Kim, do you know what I mean by this?
I absolutely know what you mean.
Okay, you take it away.
This has to do with Corey. Now, LuAnn also, in conjunction with the panel discussions, LuAnn also interviewed 4 guests, and where are they now? And one of the guests that she interviewed was Corey Dame Jenkins, and I love Corey. I have a personal love. I know, and I have a personal love for Corey. Funny story: when LuAnn and I first met Corey, it was at New York's What's New, What's Next. And for those of you who aren't on the East Coast and don't who haven't been able to attend, it's basically at the 100 Lex building. They take over, and there's a bunch of panel discussions that happen, and you walk from one floor to another, and it's a whole event, a whole evening where you want to see all different designers and specialists just talking about all topics of interior design. And we were in the hallway, and I look over from the corner of my eye, and I just see Corey, and I'm like nudging LuAnn. I'm like, LuAnn, there's Corey. You need to get him on the podcast. And LuAnn just walks right over to him. She's like, hi, Corey, you don't know me, but I'm LuAnn, and I have a podcast, and I think you would be great to be on the show. Just like that. Totally, LuAnn. And from then on, the love between LuAnn and Corey first started. And Corey mentioned this in his interview with LuAnn, that he has he's climbed the ladder of success, but he's left the ladder down to help those behind him also climb up. Now, he said, you're not going to climb on my back, but I've left the ladder there so you can climb behind me, and I can help you get there. And that's just who Corey is to his core. So he's there. He's one of those designers that you can sit down and have a conversation. He remembers your name. Like I met him once, and then ran into him at High Point, and he was like, oh, hey, Kim. And I'm thinking, oh, he remembers who I am. And we met briefly once before he was at LuAnn Live and things of that nature. And I was just so impressed with just who he is as a person. And when he said that, it's like, yes, it's not about just climbing to the top and getting there and pulling that ladder up, and not allowing others who are behind you to also learn and grow with you.
Yeah, and Mimi, you're so right. His words are like poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And Renee, you are so correct as well. He's such a genuine person. And I've never met him.
Oh, really?
I have never met the man. I've only seen him at LuAnn Live just the past couple of days. I've heard him on the podcast. I know who he is, but he's like a poet. Mimi, I think you just nailed it right on the head there. Mm-hmm. And another thing he said, to build up on what Kim said, is that not only will he leave the ladder down and help you in his footsteps, he will, the way he said it, he's like, I will tell you which step may be weaker, mm-hmm. and which one maybe to bypass, mm-hmm. and which one maybe to just hang on a little longer because that's where you need the most help, or that's what will propel you forward, and maybe you can like skip a step. I think I'm like paraphrasing, and I'm just like, I'm using my own creative freedom at this point.
It's hard to say it exactly and how eloquently he said it, but
which rungs are weak, he said. Yes. You're right, Mimi.
And so I'm super excited for his book when it comes out. I have pre-ordered my copy because it doesn't sound like it's just a typical coffee table book, that it's also going to have a lot of great learning lessons in there.
Oh, I'm really, really glad that you're bringing that up, Kim. Yes, so yes, Corey has an unusual coffee table book that he's coming out with in March. I think it's available on Amazon and Target, right? Target, of course. So we're all going to be searching Corey Dame Jenkins on both of those websites. The reason we wanted to end with this slide, you guys, is because we have some really great people in our industry, Corey being one of them, LuAnn being another, and of course all the panelists. And I think the thread that connects all of them is the fact that they have achieved a certain level of success, but they haven't pulled that ladder up. They left it down, and they're bringing all of us with them. LuAnn is bringing all of us with her. It's like that rising tides rise all ships. We're all rising in this together. We're all climbing the same ladder together. So if Kim and I can do our small little part in leaving our ladder down, this is exactly what we're doing with this episode. And I know it has gone way, way, way too long. Kim, this is like the longest one we've done.
It is.
We're going to get shut off by Instagram Live.
Probably. I don't know. We've never been this long on Be Live. I don't really know how long it will last. So
actually, they just increased it to 4 hours. It used to be only 1 hour, but we are wrapping up. And my point is, if we can, we wanted to share some of the tidbits with those of you guys who weren't at the LuAnn Live. Not everybody could attend. Not everybody can afford. Not everybody could make time. Life happens, and we completely understand. There were so many amazing nuggets. So if we could have just shared those specific 6 and probably many more that some of you had picked up, this is our way, Kim and mine way, to leave our little ladder down so that you also can climb it together with us, and we can all be on it together, having one big party.
Yes. So that's it. We're gonna leave it there, and we're hoping that next. Yes, his book is called Design Remix. Thank you, Mimi. Yes, so it is called Design Remix. Get your copy. I think it's out in, don't quote me, I think it might be April, but it might be later. I'm not sure.
I think he said March.
Or maybe March.
Did I make that up?
No, there might. I couldn't remember if it was March or April. I think someone else's book that I pre-ordered. I've pre-ordered a lot of books. It's pandemic, so I do a lot of reading, or try to, or pretend to. So, all right, everyone. So let's hoping that the next LuAnn Live can be in person, but until then.
This is the best that we can do, and we're going to continue encourage each other and uplift each other, and you guys pay it forward. If you can leave your own personal success ladder down for somebody else, maybe a little girl, maybe a friend, maybe another designer, maybe a trade person, anyone for whom you can leave your own personal ladder down, this will be your way of paying it forward.
Yes.
Amen to that, Mimi. Yes.
Yes. And Susie on Facebook, thank you. March 23rd.
Oh, Susie. Hey, Susie, I'll be calling you right after this. I'll need to eat first.
All righty, everyone. So thank you so much for joining. Our last 2 weeks of WTF Live have been a little unique, but also very important. So next week is business as usual.
We'll be talking about window treatments and designs and designers and all things window treatments, because if it's Friday,
it's WTF Window Treatment Live.
Join us every Friday right here on Instagram and Facebook at 12 noon. And until then, have a great weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.